right, we're glad to have you back. President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday, November the 7th, 2017, presented an appropriation bill of 8.612 trillion naira for 2018 to the National Assembly, with 555.8 billion naira set aside for power, works and housing. It has to be underscored that that figure is actually for three different
sectors of that ministry.
Yeah.
All right, for electricity generation, 9.8 billion naira is set aside for the Mambila hydropower project, including 8 billion naira as counterpart funding, while 12 billion naira counterpart funding is earmarked for transmission lines and substation. Now, this breakdown of the budget for the power sector indicates that the electricity distribution companies might have been left out, as there were no money specified for that.
Now, industry experts are already arguing that the entire value chain in the power sector should be carried along regardless of whether they are government-controlled or private-owned entities. Now, although power generation capacity has increased, the challenge is with the transmission and most especially the distribution network, where the substations cannot take more than 5,000 megawatts. Of course, President Buhari, when he was laying out that budget, actually pointed that out. Well, we have our guest in the studio. He's a labor activist and the deputy chairman, Campaign for Democratic and Workers' Rights, Abadom Amechi. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Nice to have you join us.
Yeah, good morning.
All right. Okay, so the weakest link here is the DISCOs, the distribution network. Yeah. According to the president, the TCN can now handle 7,000 megawatts of electricity, but the problem remains the DISCOs. So how do we move on from here?
Yeah, well, I think government has actually done something in the area of transmission, because I know that before now the wheeling capacity was just 5,000 megawatts, and before it was upgraded to 7,000 megawatts. And so the problem we now have is the distribution companies, because the challenges they have, they are enormous. Getting the meters for them to be able to get their money, and then also having facilities like step downs, transformers in the localities for them to be able to provide electricity. They also have problem of skills, well-trained manpower in that area also. Those are problems they are having. So a lot of challenges that the distribution companies are having. The budget has not really looked into those challenges. And then even if you look at the whole of the system, from generation, transmission, and then the distribution, the government, the bulk electricity trading company,
yes,
the distribution companies are owing them so much. And then they're also shouting that a lot of ministries, departments, and agencies of government are owing them so much. And I remember, I think a few weeks ago, the minister was like, if you people want your money to be paid, you also have to pay the one you are owing government. But the truth of the matter is that government need to assist them. Government ministries, agencies, and whatever, they need to pay them the money they are owing them so that they will be able to put the necessary infrastructure that will be needed for them to be able to do render services to the people.
But even on the foundation, we have talked about this issue here on the program before. Yeah. The companies that came to, when the PHCN was being unbundled, as the case may be, the companies, the private companies that came to, take part of it, were not really ready when it comes to finances, when it comes to technology or technical skill, and they were not ready with the humongous or in commensurate terms to the challenges on ground.
Yeah, Mike, it was a commercial venture that took place in a political arena.
And you never get any results from that, do you?
So you will expect some, dealings that are not too straight. And then sometimes you find out that even the people who have the skills, the necessary competence to be able to handle it, might not even get it. So there are problems there. And I think that we are not going to dwell at the level at which those problems were created, but we have to look at how do we solve this problem. And I think there is this power sector roundtable that is always coming up, and then when they meet, the minister and some of the stakeholders, they try to look at some of these challenges and how best to.
But when it comes to the challenges, it seems all the stakeholders know what the challenges are.
They do.
But nobody
Good.
seems to have
talking
wherewithal
about,
to solve the problem.
Talking about the problem, having a round table or a square or a triangle table where we talk about these issues, I think at that level, everyone knows what in fact, the average Nigerian who is on the street, if you ask him, he knows what to say, he knows what to do and all of that. But going ahead to handle the problem head on is where the challenge is.
Yeah, because the way you and I think is not the way business people think. Profit is the first thing.
And it's not the same way politicians think.
It's not the way politicians think. So interest conflicts. So even at that round table, interests are different. You understand? So these people also will want to take advantage of government also. If they are going to make more money from government, they will appreciate it. If they will want a situation where government creates an enabling environment for them to make profit. And then in doing so, they will also want to shy away from some of their responsibility or sacrifices that they are supposed to make. And so that's how businessmen behave. But the reality is that in trying to solve the problem, they will have to carry out a comprehensive assessment of what the problems are. And everybody will have to identify the role they are supposed to play in solving those problems squarely. Otherwise, we'll just be nibbling at it, and then the problems will also be there.
Well, that can only really happen if the interest of the Nigerian nation is number one, if it's priority.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like you said, you know, with the round table or square, or is it rectangular?
Triangular table.
Interests come to play, and interests at the end of the day seem to carry the day. All right, but of course, President Buhari did talk about green alternative energy sources, and he's talked about some kind of power purchase agreements with some 14 solar companies as a way of moving forward. We don't want to dwell too much on on the past, but moving forward. Now, to move forward, do we even have the foundation in place for that, progress to be achieved in the power sector?
Yeah, because I listened to that budget, I listened to a live broadcast of that budget speech at the National Assembly. And I think that area, to me, is a welcome development. There's this wind farm, I think in Katsina State, and that can generate about 10 megawatts or 10 point something megawatts. And then they talked about using solar energy. If you go up north, you can harness the renewable energy sources.
Adamawa State has so much of it.
Yes, Adamawa State. So, and then because sometimes political consideration comes into this and it creates a lot of problems. For instance, you have in Kaduna a plant, a thermal plant that you cannot run because you can't transport gas from here. But why building it there? You can build it in the south. But if you go up north there, you can use solar energy. In fact, wind is almost in abundance, almost harmless. I think it's the cleanest source of energy. So you can develop all that in the north. And of course, the generation might not be, the capacity to generate electricity might not be so high. But these are energies that you can use to support the system so that there won't be
but this budget that we keep saying, is a huge, largest chunk of the budget, 555 billion. It means the Power, Works and Housing ministries or departments under the ministry will share all of this. So on the average, we may be looking at 125 billion for power. There was a time when $16 billion was earmarked for the power sector. That did not deliver. How is it possible that about 125 or 130 will actually give us the kind of...
So actually, in fact, it sounds funny, but that's where we are. If you remember in 2015, let me just go back a little bit. May 29, when this government came to power, they said 3 areas are critical. Power, security, and the economy. So let's say, okay, in a way they have tried in the area of security, but economy and power, they are still nothing to write home about. There's a projection that says that Nigeria will be needing about $256 billion to be able to fix electricity by 2040. You understand?
That's to do with consistency.
Yes, this budget of 8.612 trillion is just $26 billion dollars. So you should, and then so you understand that 125 billion going to
plus or minus
is nothing. It's not considering the huge infrastructural deficit that is on ground.
And the demand.
And the demand. So that cannot do anything. You know, so I wonder how we are going to do that. But all the same, we have to start with what we have. So if there is a strong political will and we have people who are genuinely patriotic, the little we can do, let people see that we have done something, and then we can take off from there.
Now, a lot of analysts have talked about this national grid system, where there's a unitary kind of system where whatever power you generate from anywhere, add it to the pool, and then before you distribute.
Now share.
It seems one of the biggest problems, because there are leakages here and there. You can't monitor how things are, you know, how power is being utilized. And all of that.
You know, you said that the transmission issue has been solved and they moved it from 5,000 to 7,000 and all that, and I laughed. Because if you see the huge losses in transmission.
Along the chain?
Yes, along the chain. That's where the major problem is. And you know that sector is still being controlled by government.
Yes.
The losses. Because one, some of the equipments are obsolete. You have poor maintenance. And of course, they created a common pool, I think somewhere in Oshobo, where you have to transport everything to that place before you distribute. It's a problem. And I think we should be looking at, or rather, the minister was saying the other time that we should be looking at the technical possibilities of getting some people, private sectors,
decentralizing.
You understand? Do these things, you know. So if we can get that, it will be okay.
What's stopping us really from achieving that? Because look, in March 2016, we were told that in 3 years' time, which would be 2019, that Nigeria would be able to, deliver on 10,000 megawatts of electricity. With what is going on now, before now, and in the next 1 year with this projection that we have, how likely is that even to happen?
That cannot happen. Let me tell you the truth. If you generate 10,000 megawatts and push it into the grid that has capacity, the willing capacity of 7,000, the grid will collapse. There will be a problem. So as we are raising the generation capacity, you are also raising the transmission capacity.
So raising all infrastructure.
We are raising all infrastructure. So it's not just concentrating on one sector. You are also making sure that the equipments at the distribution sectors are also upgraded to be able to handle it. So it's a whole chain, and there should not be a weak link on that chain. That's the situation. Because now we're talking about, by the time all the generating plants start working, of course, I'm happy about the Mambila, and I hope it works. But it's been there for the past 32 years, since 1982. So if it's completed, it will be the biggest single plant, generating plant, with about 3,050 megawatts. So if you put that into the national grid, that has where you have a willing capacity of only 7,000 megawatts. Now we are about 6,000, and you put it is about 9,000. And then you have some other plants that are producing probably 300, and put everything there. You have over 10,000.
But how will the dearth in skilled personnel, which you pointed out, earlier, how would it affect, deliverables when it comes to the power sector? Because it looks like every component, whether it's the human, the material, and every other component of the power sector, is largely dependent on imports, whether it's the skilled labor or the machinery and all of that. So how do we begin to even solve this problem from the very fundamental level, which is providing the skilled, labor force?
That can be solved.
How?
Providing skilled labor force can be solved. You just need to train people. And then you don't need to send everybody on training. There are in-house training, on-the-job training. For instance, if I have a sound technical knowledge and I work in a place, I can impart that knowledge on people that I work with.
To rub off on the others.
Definitely.
Because we keep hearing people who went to school to read elect, or is it electrical engineering?
Electronic
engineering and what have you.
Mechanical engineering and so on.
The truth is that some of the equipments we are using, technology has actually overtaken some of them. And then it's just like in ICT, if you are not upgrading yourself, you just find out that you can't fit in. So also, all technology-driven industries are like that. You have to keep up with the trend. You must move at the pace at which development is moving, otherwise you'll be left behind.
Okay.
But I think it's more than that. All right.
In all of this, there are lots of people who have said that there's sabotage in the system.
Of course, that's what I want to talk about.
In the entire system. That is why because some people are benefiting from the darkness that Nigeria is in.
Yeah.
Well, of course, that's conspiracy theory. I don't
want
want
to
to
go there.
But if you talk
sabotage.
of sabotage,
Yes,
I agree with you. But I don't want to believe that the sabotage is because some people are benefiting. The sabotage is everywhere. Corruption. The man who uses electricity without paying for it is sabotage. The one who bypass wire so that it will not go through.
That is his own benefit. That is his own benefit.
So many people, the people that vandalizes the transformer and then take away lines, they are sabotage. So you find out that if all these problems are checked, then definitely, these are the main problems of the distribution sector, and they are everywhere, and they are so enormous. So that's a very big issue.
So stable and affordable power supply will continue to be a problem if we don't get it right at both the TCN, the transmission level, which from all indication is actually the weakest link.
Yeah, it's the weakest
link. Should government totally just hands off this TCN and, you know, hand it over to people who can actually run it and run it effectively?
Well, because I think that sector too, just like the generating sector, is also capital intensive. Look at the Mambila case where you said you'll be needing about 12 billion counterpart funding for the transmission lines and substations. There's another 8.9 also for the, so it's capital intensive. Even if you want to unbundle that sector too, you know, a lot of things will have to come in. But I know we'll get out of it.
Really?
Yeah, we will.
That's the Nigerian spirit. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Yes. Things are getting better.
We will get
very, very, very seriously. That's the Nigerian spirit.
Yeah, because if you look at
even when things are so bad, well, don't worry, things will be fine very soon and all of that. But let's leave it here right now. I'm Mechi Abadam, a Labour activist and Deputy Chairman, Campaign for Democratic and Workers' Rights. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Yeah.